Ever wonder why some of the coolest car features just vanished overnight? It wasn't bad design or low demand. It was because drivers pushed them way past the line. From gadgets that flirted with law enforcement to add-ons that turned a sports car into a rolling loophole, these 10 automotive icons were outlawed for being too tempting to abuse. By the end, you'll realize that most of these bans weren't about safety. They were about control. The question is, would you still risk using them if they were legal today? Number 1. Pop-up headlights. Pop-up headlights were the defining detail of 80s sports cars, the kind that looked fast even when parked. But beyond that sleek design, they offered something no other headlights could: invisibility on command. Street racers discovered that by dropping them at just the right moment, they could fade into the darkness, making it harder for patrol cars to track them down. What started as a design innovation quickly became a loophole. The system interfered with required lighting visibility, and regulators saw how easy it was to manipulate a car's profile on the road. The problem wasn't crash data, it was misuse. Authorities clamped down, arguing that any feature capable of changing a car's visibility posed too much temptation. Pop-up headlights weren't retired for mechanical failure, but for moral failure. Banned because a few drivers used them to disappear entirely, until cars found a new way to hide. Number 2. Cigarette lighters and ashtrays. Cigarette lighters once sat proudly at the center of every dashboard, symbolizing convenience and routine. But over time, that humble 12-volt socket transformed into the lifeline of underground car culture. It powered radar detectors, police scanners, and radio jammers, tools used by street racers and smugglers to outsmart law enforcement on public roads. Manufacturers noticed that the socket's popularity had nothing to do with lighting cigarettes anymore. Its real purpose had shifted toward powering devices that disrupted enforcement efforts. Removing the built-in lighter wasn't a stance against smoking. It was a calculated move to cut power to a growing web of illegal add-ons. That quiet redesign signaled the end of a feature that had fueled more than convenience. It had powered rebellion. And while the socket disappeared, other parts of car design soon found themselves tangled in similar trouble. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Number 3. T-tops. T-tops gave drivers the thrill of open-air freedom without losing the hardtop look. But that removable glass roof wasn't just a design quirk. It changed how cars were classified. Some states treated convertibles differently under safety laws, and clever owners spotted the gap. By removing the panels, they argued their cars qualified for convertible exemptions, skipping rollover tests or inspection rules entirely. Drag racers took it further, using T-tops to dodge strict event regulations about roof strength and roll bars. Regulators quickly responded, tightening the legal definition of a roof and closing the convertible loophole. Once safety codes began demanding fully integrated roof structures, manufacturers couldn't keep up with both compliance and the classic T-top appeal. They faded from showrooms, not because of leaks, but because they let drivers stretch the law in ways steel couldn't. Number 4. Wooden steering wheels. Wooden steering wheels once defined class and craftsmanship. They gave drivers a sense of precision, a tactile connection between car and road. But when custom builders started fitting untreated wooden wheels into modern performance cars, that nostalgic aesthetic collided with safety law. These rigid wheels lacked the energy-absorbing structure required to protect drivers during collisions. Once airbags became standard, the problem deepened. Airbag systems rely on carefully engineered steering wheel materials to deploy safely. Non-compliant wooden designs could splinter or interfere with the airbag's force calibration, raising real risks in crashes. Regulations soon made energy-absorbing materials mandatory, effectively eliminating solid wood wheels from new cars. The wood itself wasn't outlawed. Its misuse was. Enthusiasts valued tradition over compliance, and regulators responded by closing the loophole. The ban marked where style met regulation, before moving to a feature born for impact. Number 5. Bull bars and brush guards. Bull bars were originally built for one reason: to protect vehicles from wildlife on rural roads. Heavy steel frames absorbed impact from animals and debris, keeping rural trucks operational far from help. But when those same bars began appearing on city streets, their role shifted. Drivers used them for intimidation, giving trucks a more aggressive look while shielding the front end from collision damage. Authorities noticed a pattern of increased injury in urban crashes involving modified vehicles. What started as protection equipment turned into a tool for reckless driving and even riot control. Governments across Europe and Australia imposed strict limits, linking the rise of bull bars to what they called a vehicle armor culture. These bans weren't targeting farmers. They were targeting misuse. Bull bars were outlawed not for hitting kangaroos, but for hitting everything else. And attention soon turned to a brighter hazard. Number 6. Lead-based paint. Lead-based paint was once the secret to that deep, mirror-like finish on classic cars. Its shine came from pigments rich in heavy metals, giving an unmatched depth that modern coatings struggled to replicate. But when restoration shops began mixing illegal formulations to recreate those original hues, regulators took notice. These underground outfits ignored toxic material laws, exposing workers and neighbors to dangerous lead dust. Authorities linked rising pollution and poisoning cases to these illicit workshops, pushing for strict environmental enforcement. The issue wasn't artistic, it was chemical. Lead and other heavy metals posed major risks during production, use, and disposal. The ban became less about color and more about cleanup. Lead paint didn't just fade away for safety. It was outlawed to dismantle an entire shadow market built around nostalgia and defiance, before regulators turned their focus towards something even deadlier. Number 7. Asbestos brake pads. Asbestos brake pads once defined peak performance. Their fade resistance under extreme heat made them legendary among racers and professional mechanics. Even after the dangers of asbestos became public, some tuners clung to old formulations for their unbeatable grip, ignoring mounting health warnings. The tiny fibers released during braking lodged deep in the lungs, leading to lethal exposure cases among those who installed or replaced them. Despite strict bans, counterfeit pads kept entering black markets and performance imports, often labeled under false names. Authorities worldwide traced outbreaks of asbestos use back to unauthorized suppliers, pushing for coordinated crackdowns. This defiance wasn't ignorance. It was devotion to performance at any cost. As the ban spread, asbestos stopped being just a toxic material. It became a symbol of outlaw tuning culture finally forced into extinction under global health laws before innovation found safer ground. Number 8. Flip-up license plates. Flip-up license plates always carried that cinematic flair, the kind of gadget you'd expect on a movie getaway car. But in reality, they became one of the most recognizable tools for crime on public roads. Drivers used simple switches or remote controls to tilt their plates out of view, escaping traffic cameras, toll systems, and police surveillance. As the devices spread online, authorities found them linked to toll fraud, illegal street races, and organized evasion rings operating across multiple cities. Every motor vehicle code eventually closed the door on any movable or obscurable plate system. The technology itself wasn't advanced, but its misuse made enforcement nearly impossible. Flip-up plates turned clever engineering into a weapon against accountability, earning bans in countries from the US to Japan, before the crackdown on automobile noise drew the next wave of attention. Number 9. Loud exhaust systems. For decades, loud exhaust systems were a symbol of attitude. The popping, roaring sound let everyone know a tuned engine was nearby, and for many drivers, that noise was the soul of street performance. But the same sound that expressed personality soon became evidence of illegal racing, and complaints from sleepless neighborhoods turned the volume into a legal issue. Cities began enforcing decibel-based laws, using cameras that detect sound levels just like speed traps. These systems identified cars exceeding noise limits, automatically issuing fines. What once signified passion and creativity became part of a measurable offense under municipal codes. Authorities redefined the roar as disorderly conduct, not expression. Loud exhausts were banned for the chaos they represented, when the thrill of horsepower collided with the expectation of peace. And soon, attention shifted to an even more explosive source of speed. Number 10. Nitrous oxide systems. Nitrous oxide systems, or NOS, became the ultimate shortcut to instant speed. A single burst could transform an average car into a high-performance machine, feeding extra oxygen into the engine and creating explosive power gains. That quick jolt of horsepower made it a favorite among underground racers chasing seconds. Regulators saw something else. A street car suddenly turned into a high-risk weapon. Fatal crashes and engine explosions connected to unregulated NOS kits pushed governments to restrict its use. Authorities classified them as controlled devices, legal only on certified tracks. The technology itself wasn't inherently unsafe, but the way it was used left no margin for control. Nitrous represented pure, unfiltered power, and that's what regulators moved to contain. Its ban drew a clear line between performance and prudence, as the balance of power and control reached its breaking point. Every ban on this list came from the same cause: drivers pushing limits until regulators had no choice but to intervene. Innovation didn't vanish. It was forced underground, reshaped by people who refused to let rules define creativity. Whether it's design, performance, or style, car culture keeps finding loopholes, turning boundaries into inspiration. The question now isn't what regulators will ban next. It's whether drivers have learned restraint. If every innovation starts as rebellion, how much responsibility falls on the driver and how much on the law? Tell me where you think that line should actually be drawn.